Good morning, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Wednesday, June 22nd, around 11 a.m. Mountain Time 2022. Afghanistan earthquake. Officials say more than 1,000 have died and 1,500 are injured, and the death toll is going to rise. Keep calm. It's boom time. The longest day, the first day of summer, wasn't a bummer yesterday. It, in fact, arrived in the Northern Hemisphere and with little fanfare as Missouri farmers, desperate for rain as the future of the crops hang in the balance. We took a little look at the precipitation forecast, and it looks like Missouri's going to get a little respite for that right around 4th of July there. So there is rain coming to Missouri, but you can see the majority of the rain is all around that state. So that could bode poorly for the crops in Missouri. But late season snow in the Northeast gave parts, of the East Coast a taste of winter just a day before summer. Here are the cold morning lows in the East Sunday, June 19th. Canaan Valley, 25. Mount Washington, 27. Waverly, New York, saw 32. Kersey, PA, 34. And on and on. It was chilly up there, but the forecast is for above normal temperatures for July. So that's what you get. When you get record cold, you get record warm or above normal. They're also showing above normal for Colorado, but our pattern is showing it quite chilly for the next 10 days. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the government, if you don't know, set the largest wildfire in New Mexico history. And if you've been watching the mainstream media, they've been blaming it on climate change. And when they even interviewed the fire commanders and the National Forest Service that are responsible for setting this fire, they responded that they were unaware of how dry the forest was. Now, these are the people that are paid to figure out how dry the forest is, and yet they didn't know how dry the forest was before they lit the fires. Also, they had poor weather information according to them. So they didn't know it was going to be dry in the desert, and they didn't know that the forests in the desert were dry. Now, what are the victims owed? I think they're owed everything. I think they should get all of the money and the value from their homes and everything back. They can't get back the wilderness where they once lived, especially if their homes were in here, because they were burnt to the ground. Now, the good news is that the Hermit's Peak fire is essentially out. It has burned more than 341,000 acres and just an increase of 1 acre in the last 24 hours. So that's good news with heavy rain and monsoons, flooding the area. They definitely saved our lives. Family survives a close call as monsoon rains wash out part of New Mexico's Highway 6. I just tried to get my son out of the water and my wife out, according to Dustin Parker. And so you can see there some of that burn scar flooding and monsoonal flooding in the Four Corners region. And intense heat, monsoon flooding, and severe storms and heavy rain are on the forecast. Now, with record low temperatures up in western New York, just the other day, there is now officially heat warnings in western New York in that region. Now, a dangerous heat wave is still gripping the southern U.S. for the rest of the week, with record high temperatures to be common today in the southeast, with temps in the 90s and the hundreds, which is pretty normal for summer. Now, monsoonal showers and storms will persist the remainder of the week and may produce flash flooding across the Four Corners region. Very few counties with flood watches up right now. So if you're in these regions, you have the highest probability of rain. Rain is now moving in from northern New Mexico into our region right now and should be raining for the next 4 hours. So if you're down here in Pagosa, you're about to get wet, which is good news. Now, millions affected after deadly floods hit India and Bangladesh. Here's a video showing the Bangladesh Air Force dropping supplies to residents who are wading in water. Millions of people across India and Bangladesh have been affected by raging floods and landslides that left more than 100 people dead and entire communities devastated. Why these guys are standing next to a tilting truck is anyone's guess, but absolutely stupid right there. Now, South Asian nations, home to more than 1.3 billion people, have been particularly bad hit by the rains, prompting some of the worst flooding in the region in years. As extreme events become increasingly frequent, which is not a correct statement, flooding has always happened, and there have been more and larger floods than that one. Now, a powerful earthquake strikes Afghanistan. Here's the epicenter of the quake, and it's far south of Kabul, the most populated region of Afghanistan, but officials are saying more than 1,000 have died and 1,500 are injured. The death toll is expected to increase. At approximately 13:30 local time, a powerful earthquake struck Afghanistan 27 miles from the southeast city of Khost, where many were sleeping in the comfort of their own homes. Unfortunately, the buildings in this area have very poor construction. And because of that, they collapse easily under small, shallow surface quakes. This was a 5.9 at 10 kilometers. And you can see here the buildings are literally shredded, made of mud and bricks with almost probably no oversight or engineering. They just collapse on you and you die. So our prayers go out to the people in Afghanistan affected by this moderate quake, but obviously devastating. Now, completely unneeded because unprecedented summer snow is also hitting Afghanistan. According to local sources, as reported in Kama.com, unprecedented and heavy snow has struck central Afghanistan, which at this time of year poses a threat to livestock and tender crops, as well as humans. So, sign of the times. Seismic update. There's that quake in Afghanistan causing all that damage. Doesn't look any different than any normal quake we get in a daily on the Ring of Fire, but the construction in this region is a little different than the rest of the world, which is why it's so devastating. So, no other quakes of note. Now we're coming over here to the Reykjanes Ridge to check out a flurry of activity off the coast of the peninsula. This could be some subsurface volcanic activity. Second time in several months this has occurred, but it's definitely more evidence that the Reykjanes volcano, which is this entire region, is getting active and, well, maybe about to erupt in a big way. Another volcano in Iceland we have to be worried about is Askja. The inflation is continuing, but at stable levels. The satellite data is poor, and they're waiting for a new data set coming in this week, which is good. Now, the expansion is located on the western rim over here of Öskravötn, a vertical accumulation of 2.5 centimeters per month. The ground has been uplifted 30 centimeters since the beginning of August in 2021. That's less than a year. We have 30 centimeters of rise in the western flank of Askja. Now, is Askja dangerous? Here's the location of that volcano right there above the Vatnajökull, where Grímsvötn and Bardarbunga are. And there's Bardarbunga and Grímsvötn, and that is Askja right there. And you can see there's very little activity happening currently, so very little to worry about an imminent eruption now. But we have had VEI 5 eruptions from Askja back in 1875 and 8910 BC. That would be the Younger Dryas event, the end of that event. But we've had VEI 5 as recent as 1875, and a VEI 2 back in 1961, and a VEI 2 in 38. So it is long overdue for an eruption, as it has been erupting quite regularly about every 20 to 40 years. And we are now in a 60-year deficit. So this could be a big one at Askja, and we're keeping a close eye on it for you. Now, a comet got really close to the sun and didn't completely freak out. It does what comets do if they make it pass. Sometimes their electrical charge changes, and then they have a tail. And that's, in fact, what happened to the comet 323P SOHO, observed by Subaru before it passed the sun. It was just a dot, and then it was a comet with a tail. So, this isn't a spectacular event, but this is just more evidence of the electric universe that we live in. Space weather news update. All is quiet on the sun with 3 coronal holes now Earth-facing, and the stream from these should reach us in a few days, and that could elevate space weather slightly, but there are no imminent effects coming. The 3-day geomagnetic forecast is pretty calm, KP2, 3 to 4 through the next 3 days. Now, samples of asteroid Ryugu have been analyzed, and they contain more than 20 amino acids. Yes, the building blocks of life. Life probably came from space. And I'm not talking aliens, I'm talking asteroids, in the form of amino acids slamming into Earth in antiquity. So this is a great article. If you want to read about the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency and the Hayabusa 2 spacecraft, which rendezvoused with 162173 Ryugu, a near-Earth asteroid that periodically passes close to Earth. And back in 2018, this sample return mission reached Ryugu and spent the next year and a half studying its surface and obtaining samples. Well, they're back, and Ryugu is covered in amino acids, or is composed of. Now, this is an interesting story I wanted to share with you, that humans can learn to echolocate in just 10 weeks, according to an experiment, which is good news for blind people or people with failing vision. And with enough training, most humans can learn how to echolocate using their tongue to make clicking sounds and interpreting the echoes that come back, reflecting from the surrounding environment. Absolutely fascinating. But more practical are weeds. And if you just got your hands dirty for the first time and are trying out your green thumb, we applaud you. It may just well save your life. But if you're new to the weed game, make sure you learn about these 5 weeds that are probably in your garden and don't pull them because they are beneficial. And we're going to start with white clover, Trifolium repens. Everyone's seen red or pink clover. This is the white variety. And clover is an amazing weed to have because it fixes nitrogen in the soil. So it's a fertilizer. It's also edible and has many beneficial medicinal properties, the white clover. Now, the second one is purslane, Portulaca oleracea. This is a delicious salad green, very nutrient dense, and grows in spoiled areas almost everywhere in the desert Southwest and almost everywhere in North America. This resilient, low-growing, succulent plant is high in vitamin A, E, and C with alpha linoleic acid, which is a heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acid. It has a sour crunch, can be eaten raw or cooked. Stinging nettle, Urtica dioica. You don't want to accidentally come in contact with this plant with your bare skin, especially when it's green. But the benefits, the medicinal benefits of stinging nettle in the form of teas or eating it as a green are, well, beyond reproach. Stinging nettle is some of the most nutrient-dense food on earth and could save an entire community's life. And also, you can use it as a weapon. Jewelweed. This is another medicinal that counters the effects of itching, rashes, sting, bite, poison oak, poison ivy. Impatiens capensis usually grows in moister regions. We do have some of it around here, but it's usually by waterways or up in high elevation in the rainforest. And it's just a fantastic plant, good for the pollinators and good for the hummingbirds. Plantain, another medicinal that's edible and has multiple purposes. Can be used as a poultice on wounds because it has antibiotic properties and can be used as a salad green or cooked. Plantago major, plantain. So that is your life-saving tips for the day, and we will leave you links to that article below. Hope you got something out of the video, and that is a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. We love each and every one of you. Thanks to our one-time donors, our Patreons who allow us to make these videos, and the heroes that share them. Be safe, and that's a boom.